Welcome to the Three Tomatoes Virtual Renewal Summit. This is our fourth summit, but the first virtual one. The event is co-hosted by Ann Akers and Cheryl Benton. You'll be inspired, informed, and motivated by our fabulous lineup of speakers and panelists. Here's to thriving in midlife and beyond. But first, a word from our sponsor.
What we've discovered is that everything we knew about disease has changed. This antimicrobial, antibiotic approach is not only ineffectual but harmful. What we should be doing is promoting balance, rebalancing the natural ecology of the mouth. Revitin is a game-changing oral care formulation that can dramatically improve the health of your mouth and the wellness of your body. That is a paradigm shift in oral care.
Jane Hanson interviews Dr. Gerry Curatola in this fascinating segment on airway health and how it relates to coronavirus. As a broadcast journalist, Jane has interviewed thousands of celebrities, world leaders, and captains of industry. As a coach, she works with individuals to improve their communication skills and video presence.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this part of the Renewal Summit. And this is a really special treat because we have with us today Dr. Gerry Curatola. Welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
And let me just talk a little bit about our discussion today. So Gerry, by way of practice, is and I have to get this right, so I'm looking at my notes, a biologic dentist and a wellness pioneer. And he's kind of at that intersection of dentistry and medicine, and also adding on a lot of holistic practices to it. And I guess, and what we're going to talk about today, this is the title of our conversation, Staying Strong to Defend Against COVID-19. And when he talks about staying strong, what he's talking about is really getting to the heart of the matter, which is our airways and our breathing, because everybody knows COVID is all about respiratory disease. Not all about it, but that's a big factor in the people who get really sick and those who unfortunately perish. So, Gerry, what is it about the mouth and our breathing that you think we really need to talk about being strong?
Yeah, well, first, Jane, this entire global pandemic was a wake-up call for systemic immunity. I called it the 9/11 event in healthcare security. So the new normal is not just going to be about protecting ourselves, but strengthening our immune system. And I'm sure this is a theme that others have repeated in this Renewal Summit. One of those areas of systemic immunity that is terribly overlooked is the airway. And I'm speaking about the tube in the back of your throat that connects from your mouth down to your lungs. And that airway is often obstructed. And there's a lot of problems with your tongue and the position of the tongue and the epidemic of what we call obstructive sleep apnea. So it's not just snoring. Snoring is a sign of sleep apnea, but there's about 75% of Americans have some form of sleep apnea and are totally undiagnosed.
Well, and that's
the silent epidemic,
exactly.
Or not so silent if they snore.
The point is that with a lot of these people that we're seeing that get into trouble with COVID, we say, oh my God, it was a healthy 40-year-old. What happened? And your point is that they've got this undiagnosed kind of sleep apnea.
Absolutely. Everyone. And a lot of this sleep apnea, by the way, is from too narrow a mouth, too small a jaw. There's a book called 6-Foot Tiger, 3-Foot Cage. The 6-foot tiger is your tongue. We're the only only mammal that has an ovoid tongue. The top could be flat, but it's a very large muscle. And when the arches, teeth are pulled for orthodontics, and then the arches made narrower, or they didn't breastfeed and they bottle fed, so they had a high vaulted palate that blocked their airway here. There's all these developmental things that could go on, and interventional treatment like orthodontics when you're a teenager, that actually was a little misguided because they're pulling teeth to make room rather than expanding the space so the tongue can come forward and you can breathe. So
I was wondering how this whole dentistry thing affected it. You've made it clear. I'm going to share, you sent me some slides, and I'm going to share them right now because I think this affects what we're talking about. So if you're looking at the screen, you just made this point. Oral health is the 800-pound gorilla in the wellness room. That's a little freaky.
Well, you cannot be healthy without a healthy mouth. And I'm pointing out Airway was an emphasis I had because, as you said, COVID-19 is a respiratory virus. So you have these 40-year-olds that seemingly totally healthy, but they may have obstructive sleep apnea that wasn't diagnosed. It puts you at risk of hypertension, which was another risk factor.
Right. So I put this slide up that talks about the sleep apnea. And and in here, I look at all these things: diabetes, heart attack, stroke, Alzheimer's, memory loss.
Look on the lower right corner, 75% of severe cases are undiagnosed. And then so that person that may have succumbed to COVID that didn't have anything else may have, quite honestly, had obstructive sleep apnea that was never diagnosed, or another underlying disease for that matter that was not diagnosed. So as you can see from here, obstructive sleep apnea puts you at risk of heart attack, hypertension, which I just mentioned, reflux disease, diabetes, and stroke. I'll go clockwise here, congestive heart failure, motor vehicle accidents. Now they're requiring truck drivers to have sleep studies because they may have undiagnosed obstructive sleep apnea, and even impotence in men as well.
Wow.
When you get into children, it's even more frightening because ADHD, bedwetting, it's all related to this airway deficit.
Okay, so what do we do about it? Because I know this CPAP thing that everybody talks about, and maybe they're snoring and that kind of stuff. But I want to go back. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute because I want you to talk a little bit about this test that people can take.
Yeah.
And it's a sleep test, and I've actually done it because I snore, and which is really obnoxious, and I hate to admit it. So, but anyway, it's a test you can take at home. And it's
the real eye opener is a lot of this can be done virtually. So I have one right here. It's like a little rubber wristwatch. This is a disposable, believe it or not, disposable sleep study that just came out. This hooks up to your finger, and then this goes on your wrist, and then there's a little sensor right here that goes right here that measures your respiratory rate, how loud you're snoring, whether you stop snoring. This is blood oxygen and heart rate, and it's all downloaded to here to your iPhone or Android. Then we have a respiratory therapist that can read it. And so without leaving your home, we could tell if you have obstructive sleep apnea with this right here. It's called the WatchPat. WatchPat 1. There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Great device.
Well, so I did that test. Not exactly that one, but I did a test, and it showed that I didn't have sleep apnea, which leads me to the next question, which is if you don't have sleep apnea, you could still have obstruction, right?
Right. So if you don't have obstructive sleep apnea, you can still snore. And you are an easier case to treat because we have a laser that works in the back of the throat. It's called Night Laze, and it's called the Lightwalker laser by this Photona company. Lightwalker by Photona has this adaptation where we can take wrinkles out of your face, but we can also tighten your soft palate, which lifts it up so that it doesn't vibrate, and we eliminate snoring. The interesting part about all of this is that obstructive sleep apnea, no one ever thought, oh my God, it could be cured at the dentist. So the curative part of obstructive sleep apnea, the part where we remodel the jaws gently, is with an appliance. I think you have
I do. I'm going to bring that up again because I believe we have it here. I know we talked about the CPAP, but let's. So
yeah. So here you can see before and after correction. So before, you see the lower left corner, you can see someone's breathing through basically a coffee straw at night. So, and actually this image, which is a 3D cone beam.
Uh-huh.
So everyone should get a sleep study. Everybody should get this 3D cone beam.
But a question, aren't you breathing like that all day? Or is it just
This is someone who has, if you go up to the CPAP animation slide, just slide up a little bit.
Right in here, this one?
Go right there. Do you see the size of the tongue? Everyone thinks their tongue is flat and they stick it out.
I know, I thought it was just a little
all of that muscle.
Yep.
Now, when you have a narrow mouth, you see the teeth in the front of the face.
Uh-huh.
If you have a narrow mouth and you had teeth pulled to get your teeth nice and straight, you may have actually shrunk the airway and pushed that large organ back, blocking exactly where you're pointing.
Yep, okay.
That's the problem. So what we need to do is expand the arch and give you more room. In essence, we have to make that 3-foot cage a 6-foot cage.
Okay.
So if you go down.
Yeah, bottom line though, that means that this is not doing anything.
That's treating the symptom and not the cause.
Okay.
So CPAP, which you can see here, that whole contraption is forcing air. And there's actually some discussion now that forced air is weakening the muscles in the back there. It's artificially inflating them so that when the CPAP comes off, they're more flaccid and they have less tone, making your airway problems even worse and making you fully dependent on putting this contraption on.
I know people who use this faithfully and have done it for years, so they are probably creating more of a problem for themselves, correct?
Long term, that's true.
Okay.
But the correction,
yeah.
This is before and after. So this is a 3D scan where we can see, and look at the airway after correction. And we're going to show you how we correct it. I think it's next.
Yep.
Yeah, here it is.
Ugly looking thing that you put in your mouth. I know it says here that you use it like every 3 to 5 days. So
yeah, it's removable. So this is removable. It goes over your existing teeth. It has springs and aligners, but it's not a palatal expansion device for anyone or their kids that have had a narrow palate. The orthodontist makes this thing that you crank and you expand the palate. This is a very slow process that causes steady arch redevelopment, activating your stem cells for bone growth without inflammation. So this is not, oh, let's just crank the jaw back open. This is expanding in every direction. A lot of times the smile looks better. A lot of times, but really people see remarkable improvement.
Wait, I just want to
mental acuity.
This thing hooks onto your teeth. It looks a little torturous, but you're assuring me that it's not.
No. Yeah, I mean, for anyone who's had orthodontics that wore a retainer, this is a retainer, and the retainer is adjustable so that we can gradually expand. I mean, this is a treatment that can take a good part of a year, but that year will be the best year you put in. And what we recommend for a lot of people, if they're on CPAP, you don't come off CPAP while you're doing this.
Oh, really? So you keep...
Yeah. So you're transitioning. Yeah, this is a good picture.
Yeah, this is
so you can see the arch on the left is before the appliance.
So this will also fix teeth. You know, as you age, your teeth get very weird, at least.
Yeah, you get
bottom teeth. I notice it so much with, especially when I'm interviewing people, because their bottom teeth always look so goofy.
Crowded, yes. And that's very, very common. I'm glad you brought that up, Jane, because as you get older, your teeth move, and they move down and forward. So you can see this arch on the left has a very narrow, almost Gothic shape. And when we use the appliance, so the smile on the person like this, it's got a very high palate, very like Bugs Bunny front teeth, and very narrow on the side. So when they smile, their arch looks narrow. You almost can't even see the teeth on the side.
Yeah.
So after the appliance, the tongue has more room. The smile looks nicer, and they can breathe again.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. I'm just curious. I mean, if you get this message out to people and they're going to talk about how sleep apnea might be the cause, and this bad airways might be the cause of so much that's happened during this disease, it's crazy to think about. That's something so simple.
Yeah.
We have had such tragic results.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things that we know, the wake up call for all of us, we have to look at the message. There's been, so many theories thrown around and, this is unprecedented what we've gone through. But the reality is that we need to take ownership of our systemic health. Viruses are in our body right now. Viruses are just genetic information. They can be made from bacteria. We call them bacteriophages. Or they can be made from our own human cells. It's bits of genetic information. But when we have an opportunistic or an aggressive virus, our immune system is put to the test. So the message that I'm getting out of this is respiratory health, immune system health. And by the way, they're very connected.
Right.
Because when you breathe through your when you breathe through your nose, and if you have a high palate, it makes it more difficult to breathe through your nose rather than a flat palate in your mouth. A high palate cuts into all your nasal breathing. When you breathe through your nose, you make nitric oxide, a really important antioxidant for the body. Nitric oxide it protects you. And it's a very important part of stimulating your immune system.
Right. Well, I've always believed that everything starts with the mouth. Every time I go to the dentist, they're checking underneath my tongue. Many cancers are found that way, the beginning of a lot of diseases. But here's my question to you then. If sleep apnea is actually a diagnosis, a lot of stuff isn't covered by insurance with dentistry. So
this is medical though. So for a lot of people, 3D scans, if you're evaluating an airway, it's a medical condition. So this is where, I've been pushing, you had mentioned Rejuvenation Health and what my vision was behind that. And my vision behind Rejuvenation Health is we need to bring down this illogical wall between medicine and dentistry that went up 150 years ago, where they said, okay, everybody who's studying here and below here, you go to medical school, and if you're here, you go to dental school. But believe it or not, what goes on in your mouth is a mirror and a gateway for what goes on in the body. So obstructive sleep apnea is a medical condition. It can be treated with a dental appliance because the breathing starts here. But the scan, the sleep study, all of the things that we do, you might be, depending on your policy, but a lot of people do get medical coverage for these types of things as well.
Because I know that's so difficult for people when they think, I've got to go do this, but I'm unemployed or I'm going
to tell you, like for $600 in our office, you can get a sleep study, you can get the scan done. You can get all of the diagnostics for about $500-600. It's not a big deal but there are people where that is a lot of money, but to save your life.
Yeah.
We're looking at a fast track development of a vaccine that I have concerns about if they rush this thing, because there's all kinds of side effects and things that could come from that. Mm-hmm. But they're looking at rushing that, and the cost of the vaccine per patient would be upwards of $20,000 a patient.
What?
Calculate in the billions of development costs.
I got it. So I have another question for you. When Chris Cuomo, the CNN anchor, was diagnosed with COVID, one of the things that he said he was doing on the recommendation of some doctors was to do these really deep breathing exercises. Yeah. Will that help you with the airways?
Yes. Deep breathing is expanding the alveoli of the lungs, and it's expanding respiratory capacity. So for your body to be able to take in oxygen. But what's interesting about this virus, and the reason why the ventilators weren't very successful in helping people that were at end stage, is because the virus robs your red blood cells of holding oxygen. So you become hypoxic. So if the virus is in the red blood cells, preventing the red blood cells from holding on to oxygen, you're really a sitting duck. So yes, you need to breathe. You need a stronger immune system. And we've found zinc, and I think we're going to find some other effective therapies for this. But what everyone I think, Jane, the final thing that I would share with everyone that they need to take away from here is we live in a microbial world. We live with a quadrillion bacteria, viruses, even fungi in and on our bodies. We have this symbiotic relationship between man and microbe that goes back billions of years. As a matter of fact, the bacteria in the mouth actually protect you and from deadly viruses in the environment around us. The bacteria in the mouth transport minerals from saliva to the surfaces of your teeth to remineralize your teeth. It's amazing. So that's called the microbiome.
Yep, and got that. So going forward then, like as we ease our way out of COVID, as the restrictions become less, I know you have this Rejuvenation Health Center in East Hampton on Long Island. And the bottom line of what you're doing there, you're doing all kinds of like vitamin drips and all this stuff that's intended to help us get healthier. And I'm suspecting that people, well, they've been doing the best they can. They may not have had as much exercise. They might not have been eating as well. They might be, and they're under so much stress that, I mean, just quickly, what can we do now to really ensure that our immune systems will be better going forward?
4 things, and it's in my book, The Mouth-Body Connection, but the 4 things I always talk about. The first is eliminating harmful products. I have a real concern about being a Purell addict. Like, you could just wash your hands simply. Coronavirus is not that resilient. You can just a little bit of soap on your hands is fine. I see people killing the microbiome on their skin with ethyl alcohol, thinking Purell is going to save them, and it's actually destroying this protective layer of the skin. Mm-hmm. You can see a lot of people with dermatitis and all kinds of things from that. But eliminate harmful products. In the mouth, toothpaste that kill. Herbal toothpaste, tea tree oil, clove, people using thieves oil from this Young Living company. And that's, I developed a product that's nutritional. It's all vitamins. So basically, it's vitamin C, vitamin K, vitamin D.
Got it.
The product, you can eat the toothpaste.
There you go.
It's a diet.
I'm just going to eat it.
The second thing, you want to put it on a cracker here.
Exactly.
The second thing, and it's got a lemon tangerine flavor with natural oils. Children can eat this. I did that for one thing, because the science is saying we need to make peace with our microbes. That's how we have a stronger immune system, not trying to put ourselves in a bubble.
Right.
So I agree with, the stay in place order up to a point, not when it's destroying the economy, which will probably kill more people than the virus. But there are common sense things you do. You don't sneeze on someone. You don't go to work when you're sick. You don't. You wash your hands. That's it. But let's talk about number 2, nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. In my book, I talk about AAA, alkalizing, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant rich. Uh-huh. I have a drink mix at Rejuvenation Health that is, it's the uber phytonutrient. It has the antioxidants of 20 plus vegetables in one little scoop of this powder.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So yeah, and it's alkalizing and it's anti-inflammatory, right? There are inflammatory triggers in people's diets. Excuse me.
That's from the toothpaste.
Toothpaste. I need to rinse. So nutrition is a cornerstone, but the third one, I love what you said, and it's stress, 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 stress. What does stress do? Stress wrecks you. It wrecks everything. It wrecks your adrenal glands. It wrecks your mouth because saliva dries up. You grind your teeth. You clench. People do all this stuff. So stress is a killer. Why is stress also a killer? Because it puts you in what's called a sympathetic state of your autonomic immune system. It's fight or flight all the time, instead of parasympathetic. So I have 5 different things in my office at Rejuvenation Health. We have a pressotherapy suit that has infrared, and it has pulsed lymphatic drainage in this spacesuit. I have a biomat. I have an acupuncturist. And I have...
This sounds like
beds. It's a dream, like I even enjoy being there. And again, I did this. It's rejuvenation, health, biologic, medicine, dentistry, beauty, and wellness.
Okay. And quickly, what's the fourth one?
Exercise. Exercise. Healthy exercise. What does healthy exercise do? Healthy exercise improves immune system competence, circulatory function, immune system competence. I had in my book 7 anti-inflammatory yoga poses. I had these rubber bands. There's no excuse for not exercising.
I agree. And I'd ask you to demonstrate one of those poses right now, but I'll spare you. Anyway, thank you so very much for talking to us about how to stay strong in the time of COVID-19. You've had some really wonderful ideas. Thank you for all the work you do. Dr. Gerry Curatola, it was really wonderful to be with you. And thank all of you for watching. And it's been really terrific. We will see you next time. And everybody stay safe and be well. Thank you so much.